Let's talk about the breaking news this morning. New data just out moments ago showing that inflation is now at the highest level in nearly 2 years, largely thanks to the war with Iran. Sharply rising gas and energy prices were the biggest contributor to March's jump in inflation. Let's get to Matt Egan. He's been digging further into these numbers and he's joining us now. What do you see?
Well, Kate, look, this was a hot inflation report, and the fingerprints of the war in the Middle East are all over this report. So consumer prices surging by 0.9% between February and March. That's triple the rate of the prior month, and that's the highest in any month in almost 4 years. You got to go back to June 2022 when gas prices were at $5 a gallon. The annual rate ticked up to, well, it went up sharply to 3.3%. That was slightly less than expected, but that's the highest annual rate, as you mentioned, in almost 2 years. In fact, this is the highest annual inflation in any month of either of President Trump's 2 terms in the White House. This is looking at the trend for inflation. You can see it had been moving in the right direction, had been cooling off.
It's like a straight line up.
Yeah, it's going straight up. So why did this happen? Well, obviously, gasoline is a major part of this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that 3/4 of the monthly increase in prices was driven by the fact that gas prices skyrocketed by 21% month over month. That's the most since they started tracking this back in 1967 when LBJ was in the White House. Airfare also went up significantly, a 3% increase in airfare. That's actually less than it could have been. I mean, jet fuel costs have doubled since the war started. So airfare up 3% is not good, but it's actually likely to get worse in the coming months. Tomato prices also up by 15% on a monthly basis. That's the most since 2011. Now, the news isn't all bad here, right? Egg prices, among other things, eggs went down. Overall, grocery prices actually were down between February and March. Unfortunately, though, that's not likely to last, right? Because the war in the Middle East has interrupted the supply of critical materials, including fertilizer. And when you combine diesel, right? So you combine all that, that's why economists are saying that you could start to see food prices go up. Now, one thing to note is core inflation, which economists say is a better underlying indicator of where inflation is really going. Core inflation only ticked up a little bit, but that's not likely to last. We do expect these other price increases to seep through the rest of the economy. Bottom line here, Kate, look, the war is clearly making life more expensive for Americans, and this is likely not over, right? This is not just a March story. We're going to continue to see the impact of the war in the inflation reports going forward, which just means the cost of living is likely to get worse.
Yeah, here's a look at futures right now. We're going to be watching opening bell as it comes. Matt, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate.
Tough news this morning. John?